Hi.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, and you?
Good. Your hair is glorious.
Oh, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Always in the car.
Yeah, you are always in the car. How's it going?
Pretty good.
That's
Yeah,
good.
I had a easy day, but I had to take freedom to basketball practice.
Mm.
So that's been interesting because the teachers are in the building,
Ah,
but the kids aren't in the building. The high school kids aren't in the building.
right. That's what they're I don't know if they're still doing that at my I know they're doing that at my daughter's school because actually they're trying to get back into the school environment there. So we'll see what happens. Yep.
You've been okay? You've been okay?
Generally, yeah. This has been an interesting week. The thaw has presented some interesting challenges, but we pivot, we reacted quickly to them, in terms of the leaky gutter, the gutters and all that stuff. So
Okay.
yeah, yeah. So it's been we've been having to be very proactive uh and all of that. But I also learned this week the power of cooperation this week.
Mhm.
Really like, I have networks I can use if I need them. And I really learned uh, the value in doing that when I need to and not being afraid about what I don't have.
Mm.
Just saying, this is something that I really would like to have and need. And people actually will step up and not, and just literally just support me. And
Wonderful.
I
No.
have to be special or have anything special to receive it. I could just receive because I need it, you know? That was a very good lesson I learned this week about mutual aid. You know,
Mm. That is
I
a
am
blessing.
good enough. I don't need to be more than who I am to receive what I need. You know, that was a great lesson, and done with joy, with real joy,
Mm.
not with oh well, what do real
Yeah.
actual joy. Uh,
Glad to help.
yeah, like this makes and telling me how a good faith to feel for them to feel to actually to be giving. You say, I'm
Okay.
really glad that I was able to do this for you. Someone installed a dishwasher for me.
Mm. You said they did what to dishwasher?
Installed a,
Oh,
a,
installed it.
a
Oh
dishwasher.
wow. Just because, oh, not because, but just
Just
trying
because
to.
I reached out to my network and I'm a member of a time bank,
Okay.
and they within literally 5 hours, someone asked me, "How can I help you?"
I'm not familiar with the time bank.
I'll talk more about it. Well, I guess we still have time when people are coming in. Time banking is a part of really cooperative economics. It's a way to build exchanges between people based on what they have and what they need, and those exchanges not being based in money. So you can sign on as a member. I'll send you some information about it after class. You
Okay.
can sign on to become a member and be willing to make offers to those who need offer to for things that you have of value in terms of
Okay.
skill, information, resources, talents, and be willing to receive. And then so someone literally used their skills. I was talking. Hey, Andreas, how are you?
Hey, how's
So
it going, everyone? Sorry.
good.
Hello.
Oh, that's all. Oh, I'm waiting for more people to come in. Talking about the benefits of mutual aid and cooperation, and how really benefited greatly from that this week. I'm a member of a time bank, and and uh, and it really worked out it really worked the way it should work.
Mm.
So the value of what they do is paid in cola nuts. So they earn cola nuts as members of the time bank that they can use if they are in need of something from someone else. So I use cola nuts to receive that service from them. So now they have cola nuts to receive that service, receive what they need from someone else. So it's but cola nuts are not, but it's not really cola. It's cola nuts are an idea of your exchanging your intelligence, your ingenuity, your creativity, your resources. So the cola nut is the idea of the exchange, not the physical exchange. You know, it's the idea of that you're exchanging something of value because you're willing to participate as a part of a mutual aid network. So that's what the cola nut represents.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
In Ithaca, they had Ithaca, New York, where I went to school. They had they called it Ithaca time dollars or Ithaca dollars.
That's exactly
And so
what it is.
yeah, similar thing. And then it was pretty big because even the co-op, like the food co-op, like you could basically buy things on time. And so people would then, I mean, they were part of the co-op, but then they could also, you volunteer to bag groceries, stock stuff, and then, exchange to,
And that's how you pay for it. That's how you literally pay for what you get. Yeah. That's exactly the same concept. I've been a part of a co-op like that.
Yeah. So nice. Yeah. And then even the restaurants, you can use the Ithaca dollars at the restaurants and stuff. It's really interesting. That was the first time I had heard of it. I'm surprised actually more of us don't do it.
There's one
folks,
person. There's one person who's doing it here in Chicago. He's probably the only person that has he's probably the only Black-owned time bank operator here.
Mm-hmm.
He's a member of the co-op I belong to.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Co-op for Lit.
Nice.
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah. Sorry,
Amber.
I haven't been around. I've been working on the weekends. I got a presentation tomorrow in the morning, so I missed a lot of the prayer. So I mean, I'm still doing the prayer. I just missed the service. So
that's fine. Yeah, I have some things coming up. So we're gonna in March. There's some things that are going to be coming up. So I know a couple of weeks of March I'm going to have to postpone and ask if someone else wants to lead, just to hold the space where people want to pray. So I'm going to get started since we're at 5:07. And as people come in, they can come in. Welcome, everyone. I think everyone here knows each other. We had folks last week who were not familiar with others, so we did a round of introductions, but I believe we are all familiar. If there's anyone who wants to, who comes in who's not familiar, we'll do, brief introductions at that point. So far in our discussion of the Orisha and working with the Orisha, we have talked about several, and we've talked about Ori, we've talked about Alegba, and this week we're going to talk about Ogun. Hello, Katie.
Hi, Ia.
How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
It's fine. I'm good.
Yes.
I'm good. Yeah. So go ahead.
Oh no, I would say I was only laughing because I was so excited. I was like, "Ooh, I get to be off 15 minutes early because I worked early." And then they asked me to do something, and now I'm like 10 minutes late.
So we were literally given, since it's only so many of us, we were basically just doing small talk around time banking and
yes,
gratitude and.
Okay, well, I'm here. I'm ready.
Yeah, good to see you.
Good to see you. Joy, hi.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Our aesthetician in residence.
Oh yes, I looked you up on YouTube. Lord, on Instagram. So I will be
Man, I saw
scheduling
you.
soon.
Thank you. No problem.
Oh yeah, of course.
And Tranika, I believe, just joined us or is in the process of joining us. There she is. Oh, look at that. Hey, I like her little, I like that. It's very nice. So you're just in time, and Tranika, I don't know if she can hear me yet. So we're gonna get started talking about Ogun. Some of you know that Ogun is a very important Orisha for me. We just had a wonderful prayer service with Ogun this past week. And it was really good because it gave us a chance to kind of get to know the Orisha. One thing I like about the prayer service is that you can really kind of materialize the meaning of the energy you're working with through prayer. That's a really, I think, great way we pray. We can hear each other, learn from each other, listen, reflect on our own experiences, and connect meaning to our experience with the energy that we're praying to and working with the Orisha we're working with. That's the beautiful thing about prayer, is setting intention around making connections and meaning with what you understand and live through, and how that energy and that Orisha can support you in those experiences. And so, and I think this week, again, we had a wonderful time to do that together and experience and share with each other and our experiences with Ogun. So, so this will add to that experience for those of you who were present then, and give you an opportunity to learn more, hopefully, in addition to that. And for those who were not able to be present, you know, you'll learn some things through this that will, I think, give you some insights that can support your work in connection with Ogun. So as usual, we will cover oral literature and, you know, how the Orisha Ogun is connected to oral literature, and also how do we work with that energy of Ogun, and in terms of our thoughts, our behaviors, our actions, our growth needs, our growth interests. And finally, we have at least one song for Ogun. And I'm thinking I probably should have included the song that we did in prayer, which I thought of at that moment. Oh, there's Isai. I thought of at that moment in prayer, and it came to me spontaneously to sing that song. And I think that it's a really great and simple song to learn that I may emphasize here again today. Hello, Isai, how are you?
Sorry, I'm late.
You are on time. No one is late. You're on time. We were literally just at the very beginning of this, talking about what we will cover. So you are more than fine. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Thank you. So, Ogun. Some of you may be familiar with this because I believe I've shown this to some of you, but we're going to have an opportunity to talk and ask questions and engage with these ideas of what Ogun and who Ogun is. So Ogun is known principally as the god of war. And so when we think of war, we oftentimes think of course, conflict. So war in the big sense and war in the little sense. So we think of war, we think of wars that we create in, you know, through negative behaviors or actions, through negative intentions. We think of the war of ideas, people trying to supplant others' ideas or raise their own ideas up to a standard that other people follow. So it can be a war of ideas, it could be a war of conflict between people, between nations, between neighborhoods, between all levels and sectors of society. Businesses, So we think of the idea of one person really, or one organization or one nation against the world, and those conflicts, that the tensions that come from that. War with ourselves, I think, is another thing that Ogun oftentimes is a part of when we're at war with ourselves. So when I think of the God of War, it's beyond just the typical idea of war in a way that we think of that's beyond our individual experiences. I think war oftentimes with Ogun deals with the individual experiences we have. And that's why Ogun is oftentimes very important in promoting clarity, but oftentimes not in a way that's comfortable or easy or smooth, right? There's tension involved with Ogun. Ogun oftentimes helps us to confront tensions and resolve those tensions. So in terms of being the maker of civilization, he owns all metals in the earth. Any metal, anything that's used to create or bring shape to something physically is Ogun, is a dominion of Ogun. So anything that can physically be shaped, he is very much instrumental in being the owner, being the blacksmith of the world, right? So his tools, as you'll see in the next slide, oftentimes remind us of what it takes to build something, to make something. So he takes anything that has no shape, has no definition, and brings it into some form of recognizable or useful invention. So tools, the first tools that were ever shaped to cut something in order for people to cut meat, cut trees, cut stems from the leaves of medicines, cut the difference between negative experiences and positive experiences. A knife can be used in all those ways, right? The anvil, used to shape metal objects with an anvil and a mallet, to shape it into something that you can use to build a house, build a computer, build anything that's useful for making sure that you can live in a society that has mechanisms that are related to technology. So Ogun owns technology. He owns all technology that we experience, and all innovations related to society growing and evolving. Ogun has a lot to do with the growth and evolution of society in terms of its ability to take raw materials and shape it into something that's useful so that it could further advance capacities that we have to live a better life. So Ogun is that mechanism that makes that possible. Clearly, it takes hard work to do that, right? It takes Ogun is always, as we see in this picture, someone who is clearly strong, clearly able to, willing to, and clearly connected to work, right? Oftentimes the dances for Ogun involve either the hand movement when you're moving back and forth, you're literally, your hands become like machetes. That's literally Ogun. That's the essence of Ogun. Or this movement, that's also a movement for him in dance. When you move your hands back and forth as you dance with your feet. So Ogun reminds us of the need for hard work, the rewards of hard work and tenacity, and doing a job till it's done. Tenacity, blind justice. Ogun is blind justice. when we go through the process of people getting their warriors, one of the things I tell people is that Ogun is not on the side of a person, he is on the side of right. So if you want Ogun to come to your cause, you better be right. Ogun is blind justice. Ogun does not play favors when it comes to splitting the difference. I mentioned before that, Ogun is that energy that helps us to get things done, to get things accomplished. He is the engine, the spiritual engine that propels us. He's the one that'll clear the path of debris, whether it be emotional debris, spiritual debris, health debris, physical debris, so that we can get to a goal and see it clearly. That's Ogun. Keeper of packs. Something I've mentioned before is that in traditional Yoruba society, Ogun is the keeper of packs through his iron. So if you're going to a court of law, traditional Yoruba court of law, instead of putting your hand on the Bible as we do in this society, you put your hand on iron that's been consecrated to Ogun, and you're made to tell the truth while touching an implement of Ogun. That's how central he is to keeping pacts. And so when you break that promise with truth, you're literally breaking that promise with the owner of blind justice, who stands on the side of right. So, and also even in Yoruba homes, whether Lukumi or Yoruba, when raising children, if you're needing to resolve a little problem with the household, like say the kids took something from someplace, or did a deed in the house that goes against the rules of the house, and everyone's saying, I didn't do it. No, I didn't do it. I did. You just stand in front of Ogun and say, okay, everybody put your hand in Ogun. And then when you put the hand in Ogun, now tell me what you just said. And then it gets to be a different story. You start seeing a little more truth coming out of children at that point. Then they know that they're not just telling you the truth, they're telling Ogun the truth. So I know parents who actually do use Ogun to help children to face truth, out of respect for what Ogun represents. And along with the Legba, Ogun is the owner of the road, meaning that he is the one that is has dominion with the Legba for what happens in the road, given especially since there's his connection with technology and cars and movement in cars. He has a very intricate relationship with our traveling back and forth on the road. And because of his nature, it's being very much connected to the world outside and the roads of life that are outside. He is very much a part of that nature of that process of being outdoors in nature and on the roads of life. Any questions or thoughts about what I've just talked about so far? No?
Sorry, I had a quick question. Sorry.
Sure. No apology.
So just because I'm not as familiar with warriors, I know a little bit, but I just wanted to. Why is Ogun? I mean, based on what you're saying, I can understand why Ogun is considered one of the warriors, but I was just curious if you could just say a little bit more about that right now.
Well,
sorry,
yes.
I'm frozen. I'm sorry. Sorry.
I can actually hear what you said. So okay. The warriors are considered, thank you for bringing that up, because I didn't contextualize Ogun within the idea of the warriors. So the warriors are named as such because they are Orisha that are very much related to each other because of their connections to and through Odu and through their nature. They're connected to being protective, being very protective. Orisha, like protective of the home, protective of towns, protective of different spaces, physical spaces, because of their nature as being like guardians, guardian Orisha, in the sense of being having connections as Ogun does, with war, with hunting, with being connected to places within forest dwellers, medicine workers. So Oshosi, Ogun, Elegba are considered the warriors. They have pacts with each other that are connected to, again, particular Ogun and Ochosi's roles as hunters, having distinct roles as hunters, but knowing that the role Ogun has complements what Oshosi needs, and the role Oshosi has complements what Ogun needs. And Elegba accompanies both of them as actually, to me, Elegba just accompanies all Orisha. but Elegba is the one that opens the way to all things. Elegba is the opener of the way to all opportunities that anyone experiences. So that's why he and Ogun, who clears the way through his nature in terms of being shown with a machete and clearing the path. Him and Olegba work very close together in that way. So they're considered to be very much related to each other because of their nature as hunters, their nature as kind of guardians, their nature as being the kind of like the front line, so to speak, of the Orishas. I would put it that way. So given that role in nature, they have a particular kind of a place in the Orisha pantheon as being very much interconnected in ways that you don't see with other Orisha, as we worship them in Lukumi in particular. And I'd say to some extent also Candomblé as well. There were no warriors given to people in Yoruba land. When you received Olegba, you received Olegba. When you received Ogun, you received Ogun. If you need to receive Ochosi, you receive Ochosi. There is no, I can say this as someone who, was in an African Yoruba house with ties to Ashoka land. There was no warrior pact in the sense that was Babalawos who gave warriors, gave them because that was something that was born out of the Lukumi tradition of giving warriors. That is not a traditional role of a Babalawo. I'll just say that. So, so the idea of the warriors is in some ways very specific to Lukumi practice, in a way different from how you see them connected to worship and practice in Brazil and in Yoruba land. And I think to some extent also potentially Trinidad as well. So when I'm referring to the warriors is again a very Lukumi centric concept. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other questions? And I would say, even in addition to that, that there were reasons for, how that came about in terms of how the Lukumi used, because of the folks who were enslaved and brought to Cuba, who were priests and keepers of temples, who brought the traditions to the island. The reason why we have the worship in Lukumi that we do is really based on cooperation amongst priests and exchange of information and practices amongst priests from different regions. So, and similarly, you can say that's true in Candomblé as well. So the construction of this idea of the warriors is born out of the, the need to preserve the traditions in ways that help to keep under great repression and slavery that and enslavement of and the repression that went with that. And so a lot of those practices that we see are born out of that survival process. That's why you see the difference between why you have certain ways we worship in receiving and practicing Lukumi versus Yoruba land. But that's kind of another topic, but I just wanted to give that context for you guys. All clear so far? Everybody good? Everybody
Yeah,
with
I
me?
appreciate that. Yeah, I do appreciate it.
Okay. Okay, good.
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm. Yeah.
And sorry, I might have to jump on my laptop because I think this this connection is frozen, so I might have to come back in through my laptop. So give me if you see me at the door, it'll be me. Sorry.
Okay, sure, no problem. No problem at all. Okay, so we're going into now the question of how do we work with Ogun? So as some of you know who have taken this class before, rather than focus on knowledge of ritual, which can be helpful, I like to focus on how anyone, regardless of if you have Ogun or you don't have Ogun or whatever Orisha practice, whatever level of practice you're at, you can actually do this and work with the energy of the Orisha that we're talking about, because their nature is, as we find through Odu, which are the sacred texts that inform divination, through Odu, through stories, the sacred stories, which are pratakis, we learn about the nature of the Orisha. So when we talk about this nature of Ogun, these are the ways that we come to know and understand, certain things about Ogun. The first is the idea of keeping our commitments. So with Ogun, because he is the keeper of pacts, he oftentimes is also one who really looks to how we keep commitments that we make. And this can be sometimes one of those things that's really kind of difficult to do or to see in practice, because we oftentimes have to change our minds because things evolve or a situation evolves, and we have to kind of pivot to address that situation. So sometimes, this isn't always an easy practice to keep up. But the idea is that, and I've said this in other spaces too, oftentimes we have to examine why we give up on things before we see them through to the end. And what Ogun reminds us of in thinking about keeping our commitments is that oftentimes we will keep commitments to our job, we'll keep commitments to our friends, to our family, we'll keep commitments to our godparents, we'll keep commitments to our teachers, to our, for our schooling. But we won't keep commitments that we make to ourselves, right? So if we have a goal that we really want to meet for ourselves, why do we give up on those goals? Examining that is important. Why do we say to ourselves, I really want to accomplish this, but I don't know, why, and then we let the doubt set in. We let the naysayers set in. We let the commitments to other people set in, and we put ourselves last. And so when I think about keeping our commitments, it can be about things changing, but I think oftentimes keeping our commitments can also be about how we don't hold ourselves as sacred or worthy of keeping our commitments to ourselves, and how we should kind of rethink that and reposition ourselves to be able to make room and time in our lives to see things through that matter to us and matter to our own happiness. So thinking about that is something that when we're being held to that standard with Ogun, even if we have to pivot in terms of the mundane, when it comes to commitments that we make, particularly if those commitments mean our growth and contributing to our growth, then those commitments are what I think of when I think of what Ogun would like for us to keep. And of course, that goes into the second one, which is finishing what we start. So, and this goes a lot to just, well, you know, it goes a lot to being able to kind of bear down sometimes when it's hard to get through a thing, and realizing that at the end you're gonna accomplish something. Because for Ogun, when we start a lot of things and we have a poor track record of completing them, and for Ogun, that creates like this kind of debris, it's spiritual debris that we encumber ourselves with. So clearing that debris is important in order to open up ways to new opportunities and possibilities. So we can have closure with things that we have pending, have requirements to complete, so that we can move forward and see new things come into our lives, or new opportunities come into our lives, without kind of like this spiritual debris of incompletion that might encumber us in ways that that we're not, that won't be helpful for us. So finishing what we start is a part of that process as well. And so sometimes if there's something that I committed to, that I want to, that I have a difficulty finishing, or some circumstance makes it so that I'm not going to be able to complete something, oftentimes I will talk to Ogun about it, and talk to him so that I can bring some closure with that process with Ogun, so that it doesn't feel, because I've been working with Ogun so long, I oftentimes do feel, that's why I put this here, I oftentimes feel that spiritual debris when I'm not completing things that I start. So so if you're aware of this, this can maybe affect how you feel that happening to you too. So any questions about commitment keeping or finishing what we start, or any thoughts or insights about that for anybody?
I do have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So if a person is having trouble completing a task, could that be a time that Ogun is saying you shouldn't be doing it?
That's a good question. So then it goes to some other question, right? So what was the impetus for starting in the first place? And that's just where the process I go through too, being honest with you guys. So there are times when when there's a problem with completing a task, and it depends on what it is. So and again, going back to the same question I had before about keeping our commitments. Are we letting our commitments to all of these other obligations overshadow commitments that we make to ourselves? Are we letting Are we not making room for ourselves in our own lives? You know, how are we engaging in self-definition, you know, in terms of what we know we want to accomplish, not just what we should accomplish for this person, for this obligation, for that obligation, but what are we doing to, how are those things defining and furthering our development? And if they aren't, then why are we making room for all of those things and not making room for things that further our own development? So that's one question. So you know, it's a process, right? Um, going through this process of really kind of doing some reflection on, you know, am I not able to keep commitments because I'm scared? Am I not able to make a commitment because there's something that I don't know that I should know about this, and I'm afraid that if I do this, I'll make a mistake because of what I don't know? And if you go through the process of and this is very much, you know, Boone's nature too, I think, is going through this process of really kind of being very clear about what it is that is defining your obstacle. Being very clear about that. That's where I find Ogun is so great at helping me figure out, is really seeing clearly, what is this obstacle in my way? And being honest with myself about really what that is. And then understanding my own truth in relationship to that obstacle, you know. And once I'm able to see it and understand it and make my peace with it, is it still an obstacle? Is it an obstacle of my choice in my own making, or is it an obstacle that is really outside of my control? Because Ogun also reminds us, I think, in this idea of finishing what we start, and this goes back to Ori too, which we talked about a couple of weeks ago, is understanding your own true nature and your own true self in what's really at that point uh, of knowledge that you have of yourself. If you know yourself well enough, and you know that there are certain things that that always kind of get in your way in your own mind, like those contradictions that we talked about in Ori, you know, those contradictions that we live with all the time that we don't resolve. You know, how often do those contradictions stand in the way of our getting things done for ourselves? And really being truthful about that. I was talking to Joy about this right before you all came on. We've had this dishwasher in our house for about 25. We've had the house for about 21 years. We've had this dishwasher for about, it was here before we moved in the house. Maybe we were the second owners of the house. It had been around for 25 years, right? 5 years before we were here, the dishwasher's been around. So that dishwasher was our ride. It's been our ride or die for a long time. So it was, after a while, it's just starting spewing water on the floor. You know, twice when we use it, it's like, okay, we gotta call it. It's been 25 years. We picked it up from, we've limped it back to health, nursed it back to health enough times. We think we could let it go now, right? But then it was like, okay, now we got to get another dishwasher. What are we gonna do? And so, you know, we decided, we needed a little time before we can invest in, a brand spanking new one. And so I decided to go to the Rebuilding Exchange and see what models that they had that would be in good condition, that could carry us while we're, needing to prepare for getting an actually really new dishwasher. And they had very good deals on dishwashers. But we don't have any experience in installing one. So, and it doesn't come with the dishwasher. You go there, you pick it up for an absolutely great price, but then it's all on you after that. So I'm a member of a time banking exchange. And And people make offers all the time for home repair. And sometimes, and people are willing to do it. But, who asks? Am I worthy? It's like, oh, I never used the exchange for that reason before. I've made plenty of offers on the time bank, but I've never asked for anything this because I knew it was going to be, something that honestly probably would have cost me as the guys came here did, this probably would have cost you about a couple of $1,000s because of, the time and effort it took to get it installed. But I had to decide that my obstacle for asking for help was that I didn't think that people would do it. It had nothing to do with the time bank exchange. It had nothing to do with what was available. It had nothing to do with the options that were there. It was my thinking. Even though I'm a member of the exchange, I had to decide that I am worthy of receiving help and I don't need to have anything. I don't need to curry any particular favor with anyone to ask for help. I am deserving to have my needs met just because I am, not because I am ... And so once I cleared my mind of that spiritual debris and said, you know what, I'm going to ask. And I'm not going to hold any candle to any possibility. I'm just going to ask. Talked to Ogun about it, told him, look, Father, got this thing going on. And I didn't make any ebo or anything. I just talked to Ogun because I thought my ebo was actually having a change of heart about this. Not even 5 hours after I made the request, I got an email. And a day after that, they were here and it took them 2 days to install this dishwasher because it was based on a model for this house that was over 20 years old. So it was not up to standard. Even the one that was removed was not up to standard. So they were here for 2 days. They were here for about 6 hours, but they installed it and it's working just fine. And they made sure everything was perfectly fine. They did not cut any corners. They communicated with me the whole time, just as they would have if they were from, Menards or wherever else I would get a dishwasher from. They gave me the same courtesy as I would have received from somebody who was, professional. And they cared enough and they did it with joy. They did it with happiness. They were happy to do it. They didn't do it with drudgery or feeling like I was wasting their time. And so, I had to really change my mind about what I wanted and change my resolve to have it. That was my abo. And so, Joy, to answer your question, I think it's worth looking at what, and sometimes it is stuff outside of our control. Sometimes it is, but I think it's always good to really do that reflection about where you're at in relationship to what your goal is and what it is that we do in relationship to that goal. What thoughts go through our mind, what feelings go through our mind. We're in a society where we're oftentimes made to question our own worth and value. We're oftentimes made to question that. So we have to constantly, undermine those ways of thinking and being. And that's why I really do feel Ogun is important, Orisha, to keep in mind and in working with, because he oftentimes confronts that by asking us to say, you can put yourself in a position to get your things done. You can definitely clear spiritual, emotional, financial, and metaphysical debris from your life so that you can get to the goals that you want in life. Not to say that's going to be easy, because as I mentioned, oftentimes Ogun helps us to confront tension. It's not going to feel all billowy smooth and fun. And confronting ourselves and reflecting on our own crap is never fun. But at the end of the day, the reward is great. And that's the thing that Ogun always reminds us of, is the hard work we put in will be rewarded well. And I think the work we do spiritually to reflect on these questions is rewarded well. And I have a great dishwasher that works just like it was brand new. Like seriously, I mean, we're like, oh my God, we forgot what it was like to have a dishwasher that didn't make so much noise. It wakes you up at night. Like we'll be in there like, oh, who turned on the dishwasher? You know, and it's on that late at night. It doesn't matter because it's so quiet. So it matters. It matters what we think and feel.
Okay, thank you.
I hope that helps.
No, it did.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So the other thing I would say, and this has come up for anyone who's done readings with me, if one of the principal Odus that Ogun comes up in is Ogun Da. So anyone who receives that Odu, oftentimes, particularly if there's some imbalances that need to be addressed, the question of how you avoid arguments and conflicts that lead to war comes up for people, right? So Ogun is the one that reminds us of how war can sometimes means that we will lose, right? And sometimes if Ogun is showing up with certain other Orisha, Ogun reminds us that sometimes we have to lose in order to win. And one Orisha in particular that comes up with Ogun is Oshun. When those two are working together on someone's behalf, they oftentimes remind us together, when they're working together on someone's behalf, that it's sometimes in war. First of all, you have to recognize that you're in war. Sometimes, especially when we're us nice people, because I think everyone here is probably like nice people, right? We're nice people. We don't mess with nobody. We don't do nothing to nobody. So when war comes up for nice people, it's like, I'm not like, I'm at home all the time. I don't do anything to anybody or do war. So when war comes up for nice people, it feels like a stretch, right? But sometimes we have to recognize that the nature of Ogun is to remind us that war oftentimes leads to loss. And so when it comes up, it reminds us when the idea of, avoiding arguments, avoiding conflicts comes up, is that we have to remember that sometimes going into battle, even if it's for an idea that we know we're right about, sometimes even going into battle around the war of ideas sometimes does not give us the benefit that we're looking for. Sometimes it actually presents more of a loss than a win for us because the idea isn't worth fighting for with whomever we're fighting with, right? And sometimes it means sitting back and honestly letting the war exist without us being let the war exist on a one-way train and not one that we're trying to get a ticket on, right? So avoiding arguments and conflicts can be something that can be the thing that we don't remember is that big of a deal for someone else's because it's not a big deal for us. So Ogun reminds us also because of part of Ogun's nature is also there's a lot of volatility when he comes up. So there may be something that you thought you had a disagreement with somebody and it wasn't a big deal to you, but they were pissed. And you had no idea that one thing you said made them lose it because they were not reasonably thinking about the thing as you were. Or sometimes we underestimate how things we say or do may have an impact on someone. But sometimes Ogun reminds us, if you're thinking that you need to say something, you don't. You can keep it to yourself, especially if it's not going to advance anything but your ego. So sometimes Ogun reminds us, even for us nice people, sometimes we have to remember being right isn't always going to win the war, because sometimes the war itself is going to mean a loss that we don't want to experience. So Ogun oftentimes reminds us of that conflicts that we don't see coming, that can be born out of our naive thinking about something we thought was okay to say or do, that can negatively impact somebody in a worse way than what we were considering. Ogun also reminds us to be careful on the roads. Being careful when we're driving, being careful when we're literally walking the streets, being careful when we're having our wits about us, not being, Gun teaches us to kind of be aware and on guard when we're out in the world, so we're not caught off guard by someone who may mean to do us harm, or or an accident that might be happening out, just around us. So Ogun is the one that reminds us to be on guard in the world when we're out on the road, because Ogun reminds us that there's always potential surprises that, if we're not using our awareness, we can be caught off guard by. Ogun is one of those Orishas that does, as I said, I wasn't going to talk about rituals or anything like that, but in terms of work with Ogun is one, just like Alekba. Ogun is one of those Orishas that oftentimes does require us to do sacrifice. Whether it's doing cleanings or doing different things to keep ourselves safe. Ogun is one of those Orishas that really has a very dynamic nature. So we oftentimes see things happening I believe I have seen things happening very quickly after we make a bow with, or make an offering with Ogun, like with Alekba, we see things happening very quickly. Oftentimes the cleanings and the offerings are a way to keep that dynamic relationship well intact. Any questions about that? I think all of you have had some dealings with that question of doing the cleanings of the offerings. Okay. So now we come to the fun part. And because, as I mentioned last time, we have an echo on Zoom. So if we all tried to unmute and sing, it would sound like everyone's singing at different times rather than together. So we have an Oriki, which is a praise song, and a praise song, and we also have like a prayer or something you can say to Ogun. So again, I think I'm gonna sing the Ogun song that I did last time at the prayer last Saturday. And you guys can sing along. I'm gonna sing that one. It's not written here, but I'm gonna sing that one first. And then after I sing that one, I'm gonna sing the verse the first time. And then I'm gonna sing it for you all to join me the second time. It's a very simple song. It basically says, Ogun Baba brings, Ogun the Father who brings blessings. That's literally the song. And Ogun brings blessings to me. So I'll start with that song. Ogun Baba ire, Baba ere mi Ogun, Ogun, Ogun. Ogun Baba ire, Baba ere mi Ogun, Ogun, Ogun. Ogun Bamba ire mi Ogun, Ogun, Ogun. Ogun Bamba ire mi Ogun, Ogun, Ogun. Is that too fast? Everyone's like, oh well. Let's try it. Even if you sing along, even if you like hum it to yourself to get the rhythm, that's better than not. Okay, so we'll try it again. Because this one's a simple one, because the one that I have written here is a little more intricate. Okay.
You're singing the one on the left.
The praise song is the song that I was gonna do next, but I wanted to do a simple one that I didn't have written here, but that I sang last week because it's just so simple. It's 3 words: Bamba, Goon, Baba, Ire Mi, Ogun.
I might need the words.
You need the words? Okay, I'll write them in the chat then. Let's see. Chat. Baba. Was Baba Ieremi, Baba Ieremi. Ogun. And then it repeats. So I wrote it semi-phonetically. Ire is I-R-E. I wrote Baba Iremi, Ogun. I wrote me as in me versus M-I, because it's normally actually written M-I. So that's in the chat. So I'll sing it. I'll sing it again. I'll sing it once. So I'll sing it one refrain, and then you guys can join me for the next refrain. Sound good? Okay. Ogun baba ire, baba ere mi ogun. Ogun baba ire, baba ere mi ogun. There you go.
Baba ire, Baba ire
Ere
me.
mi ogun.
Ogun Baba ire, Baba ire me.
Ogun. Yeah, there you go. So I like to sing this song when, something happened that, I wasn't expecting, or something that I worked hard for actually came to fruition, or I received the reward after hard work, essentially. I like to sing this song to him in response to that. Okay. Shall we move to the one on the slide here? Okay. So say again.
I was going to ask, can you do it one more time?
Oh, sure. Let me bring the chat back. Okay. I'll sing the first part again, and then you can come in after that. Ogun bamba ire, baba ere mi ogun. Ogun bamba ire, baba ere mi ogun. Now your part. Ogun bamba ire, baba ere mi ogun. Ogun bamba ire, baba ere mi ogun. Okay. Was that good, Ann? You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Do you have any questions about anything we talked about? Good to see you. I forgot to do my check-in with you this week.
No, nothing that you talked about. It just can relate to a lot of the things that you were saying, because I have been at war with myself most of the time.
Mm-hmm. That's part of the war too. A lot of people like to externalize war, but I think in working with the Orishas and inner alignment, we have to talk about our internal wars. because those are the wars that we fight before we fight any war externally. So Mafete Funogun for being our companion while we figure that out. So that's a good thing to have, good tool in the arsenal to have. All right, so this song and it's a praise song for Ogun and is a very popular one. It's the one you generally hear. It's like one of the first ones you hear when they start songs to Ogun during a bembe or what's called a fundamento. This is one of the first songs that comes up. So I'll sing it. I'll try to slow it down because it's normally at a very fast 6/8 generally. So I'll slow it down for us for the class. Ogunde arere ilek bokbo ogunwa ogunwa nile oke wa lona ilek bokbo ogunae. I'll sing it again. Ogunde arere ilek bokbo logunwa ogunwa nile oke wa lona ilek bokbo ogunae. All right, y'all feeling froggy?
Could you pronounce that the Ile Bogabo? Is it Bogabo? Is that how you said it?
Yep, that's why I tried to do it phonetically. I probably could improve on my phonetic translations, but Ile Bogabo. Yes.
So it's a quick gabo. Okay, I got you.
Yeah, yes, it's a quick one. Yeah, so Ile Bogbo, the house is everywhere. Olu, this his house is everywhere. It's all existing. And then Ogunaye, Ogun of the earth. Okay. Let's see. Let me try it. I'm gonna do the chorus and the refrain again, which is the exact same thing. Ogunde arere ilek bokbo ogunwa ogunwa nile oke wa lona ilek bokbo ogunae. Y'all ready? Okay. Ogunde arere ilek bokbo ogunwa ogunwa nile oke wa lona.
Ile
Ogunai.
Yeah. Ilek bokbo ogunaye.
Ile Bogo Ile
Ilayaye. That's you can say that too, but so we say Ogunaye in this one.
Oguna, yeah. Ogun.
Oh yeah. Ogun.
But there are songs where it's Ilayaye is a part of it, but not this one. So I was like, you can say that, but that's a different song. Ogunde arere ilek bokbo ogunwa.
Well, so it stops at when you could do the Ogun Y, is it pause or just goes right into Ogun Wanile?
Ogunwa ogunwa nile oke wa lona ilek bokbo ogunaye.
Yeah, I'm messing the timing up. That's the problem.
Yeah,
Time is on.
yeah. I'm trying not to do the 6/8 because sometimes that's pressure. If you're
Okay.
trying to listen to for some people, just hearing the words first and then including them.
Yeah. I think I'm on a 4/4. That's the problem. I'm trying. So when you were singing it the first time, was that at the 6/8 time or no?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Okunde arere ile gbogbo ogunwa nile okewa lona ile gbogbo ogunaye ogunde arere ile gbogbo ogunwa nile okewa lona ile gbogbo ogunaye.
Okay.
That's how the rhythm fits in with the song.
Yeah, I feel like I needed the rhythm though then because
You did?
I could feel it. Yeah, it was harder to kind of read it without.
You need to know where the one was.
Right.
You need to come in on the one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I think that helped it because it was harder to kind of catch the cadence of it without it, you know.
Okay, yeah, there is a cadence. There's cadence to everything in Lukumi, in music in Lukumi, for sure.
Dad, you gotta turn the light on. We can't see you.
I do have the lights on.
Okay, so the Oriki is literally just like a prayer. Like if you want to speak to Ogun and greet him and with praise. So Iba Ogun, I salute Ogun, Alak Bede, that's I greet Ogun, right? I greet Ogun the blacksmith. So that's Iba Ogun, Alak Bede means I greet Ogun the blacksmith. Remember we talked about how Ogun is the blacksmith of the world, right? So this is literally recognizing him in Oriki or as in a praise poem as the blacksmith of the world. Kila she okay, you who work for us, we greet you. That acknowledges Ogun's connection, as I mentioned, in oral literature, you'll see certain things come up in terms of how the Orisha are referred to. He is referred to as one who works for us tirelessly. That is Ogun's nature, is to continuously work for humanity. Shibiri Ki, that's a little bit of a tongue twister. Shibiri Ki, builder of many homes who owns many magical gourds. That refers to Ogun's nature, of course, as I mentioned, is taking raw materials and shaping them into something that helps us to have civilization. And also as a adept at medicine work. That's also part of Ogun's nature, is to work with herbs and roots. And then Ago, which is our way of saying, Ago is like what we say, make way, or we ask for permission. So we would say this before we said a prayer to Ogun. So we can say Ago, and then we would say, Ogun, I'm Deidre, I'm here to talk to you about this issue or this question or this, thing that's going on with me. So that's when you hear someone say, you may hear me say, I go at the end of prayers that I say. I'm literally making way or asking permission to continue the conversation about what I want to talk about. So that's what I go means. I go opens the way for us to have a conversation with the Orisha. That's how that word functions. Okay. So, yes, you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question. My dogs are going at it right now, but
I hear them. They're like, I'm hearing them.
But what does Mafedefun mean?
Ah, that's a good question. Mafedefun means like love and praise. Is like praising, like praising and giving love and saluting. It's like a way of giving thanks and praise to the Orisha. So I see you hear me say that a lot too, right? Mafedefun. That's when I say that, it's like thanks and praise to Ogun. Mafedefun Ogun. Mafedefun Olegba. That's the way of saying thanks and praises. Like from your heart, like saying something heartfelt, out of heartfelt gratitude and honor. That's what that's saying. That's what we reserve Mafedefun as a praise for the Orisha. And there are other ways you can praise other people, but we don't praise people with that phrase. We only refer to Orisha and Ori, which is our first Orisha, right? The Orisha that of our head. We say Mafedefun Ori, we say Mafedefun Oshun, Mafedefun Ogun, and that's how we heap thanks and praise onto the Orisha. So anyone can say it. You don't have to be a priest to say Mafedefun. Anybody can say Mafedefun Ogun. When you talk to Ogun, if Ogun, yeah, like if Kokorobia, your Olegba does something for you, you can say Mafedefun Kokorobia, Mafedefun Olegba. You can say that to him. You don't, that's not reserved for priests. That's reserved for anyone who wants to give thanks and praise to the Orisha.
Isai also wants to know what Kinka Mache means.
Ah, you getting into the questions. So Kinka Mache means let no hurt or harm come to. Y'all hear me say that when I say my prayers. The prayers are opening up the divination. Let no hurt or harm come to my elders, myself, and the person that's receiving this divination.
Okay.
I pray for everyone's health and well-being as part of the opening up of the conversation with the Orisha.
I have a third question.
Yes, you do.
And so I was wondering, how does because you said the Ori, like the Orisha on your head is your first Orisha?
Mm-hmm.
So what would be like the other Orisha? I don't know if I'm wording that right.
I understand. I think I know where you're going. So I mean that in the sense that no matter what Orisha is on your head, because we know that there's a process to determine whose Orisha a person has, regardless of whatever Orisha that is, Ori is your Orisha. That is your personal Orisha. That is the you that makes you you. There is no other Ori on the planet like Isai Hernandez's Ori. Even if there are a million Babaluayes and you happen to be one of them, but there are a million Obatala children and you happen to be one of them. If if there are lots of people who have Obatala Moro, Obamoro, that's my road of Obatala is Obamoro. There are many roads of Obatala. Mine happens to be that one. I know several Obamoro, but none of those Obamoro is Deidre. I'm the only Deidre. You're the only Isai, no matter how many people share your Orisha that's marked for your head. The Orisha that you incarnated in spirit into this body is your Ori. Charles Schultz had a saying. I'm forgetting what it was. Something about don't imitate other people. Those are all, don't be like anyone else. Those are all taken, or something like that. I forgot what it was. It was a great saying that talked about Ori. I'm going to find it and I'm going to remember it. But he gave this great saying that was a quote about that talks about Ori, that there's only one person. No one's taken that. No one's taken you. No one's taken who you are, right? So that's what I mean by Ori is your first Orisha. It's literally the God spark that gives you consciousness and awareness of yourself as a conscious spiritual being.
That's deep.
Yeah, I knew you'd appreciate that. I knew you'd appreciate that. Yeah, but those are great questions. And everyone is enriched by your questions, so I'm very glad that you asked them.
I'm glad that he asked about the mafia food because I hear it all the time. Mafia food. I see it all the time. Type 2, like on social media, and I'm like, I don't know if they're saying about folks, agree or say the same thing. So I just look at it. But I'm glad you asked.
Right, you've been doing the smile away for years. Now you know what you're doing, right? It's like, oh,
yeah, yeah,
yeah. Well, that's great. Yeah. Oh, I thought I had another thing after this one. Okay, so so that is it for the presentation. But we can always, of course, we have until 6:30. We can always ask more questions, share our experiences. I have lots of experiences I can share about Ogun. When I was in my 20s and just moved to Boston, starting grad school, I didn't know a soul there. And but I decided I was going to move ahead of classes, get there in April and get acclimated to the new, to Boston, because I'd never been there before. And I decided to take a job at this place. I didn't even know where it was. I thought it was like the Bay Area where, you can get around pretty well even if you don't know where another town is. There's some kind of public transportation that'll get you there, not a problem. I'm all the way in Boston. I don't know if y'all know about the East Coast. I got a job in Lexington, Massachusetts. Exactly, Andreas. I didn't have car the first. I didn't have knowledge the first. I was just like, I got a job, and not a clue. And so I take this bus that, I swear it took hours. It took hours. And I was like, I'm not, and I prepared to go a little early, thankfully, and I got there barely on time, but it dropped me off on the side of this road, and it was nothing but, they dropped me off and there was nothing but like a thicket of bushes and cars. And I had no idea where I was. And I was just standing there. And I just prayed to Ogun. I had nothing to lose. I stood there and said, Baba, I don't know where I am. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what I was thinking, but I need help because I don't even know how I'm going to get back home, because I don't even see where the bus to go back the other way. You see the bus routes going one way, it was not even the bus going the other way. So it was on the side of a freeway. It was literally on the side of a freeway in Lexington, Massachusetts. And this green, maybe about 20 minutes after I prayed, a guy in this big army green truck. It was like this van, but it was like a van, but it like a house on like a van. It was so huge. Army green. This guy comes up, he opens the door. He's burly, he's got, he's got this beard. He's like, our dude with the palm fronds. He's like that. And, just like grizzly. And he's like, are you lost? And I said, this has got to be Ogun. This could be go really bad for me. but I think this is Ogun. And I just said, thank you. And he said, are you talking to me? I said, no, but yes, I am. And he took me, he said, where do you need to go? And I said, I'm going to this place. And I told him the address. He said, oh, I got you. He took me there, dropped me off. I never saw the man again. And that was it. He didn't ask me any questions. He literally just carried out. That's one of my first like early encounters with Ogun that let me know for real, that this is for real. And I learned some very important lessons that day about awareness on the road, all kinds of things we talked about, tenacity, all of that. But it was, I was very thankful, and it reminded me that I'm never alone in the world. I thought I was by myself, but I wasn't. And that's what Ogun reminds us, that we're never alone in the world. Because as long as, we have a connection with Ogun that is always in the world and, on the road in life. Likewise for sure. But that was a save that I will never forget. I ended up quitting that job that day. I said, this was a bad decision. Sorry, y'all. I don't know if my Ogun guys are gonna come get me back, but someone ended up giving me a ride to a place near civilization so I can get home. But they laughed with me. They understood. They were like, we understand. It was really, they were very, very gracious about the whole thing. But yeah, so, we have a lot of opportunities to learn through experience if we just have if the mind is connected to what's happening and how that connects to the energy around us. And I noticed that for many of you guys, that's starting to happen. So that's my Ogun story. True story. Yes, Isai.
I have two questions,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think they're related to the story.
Oh, they don't have to be. That's just my I've had other stories that are similar since, but that was that's one of those things that you just don't forget, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're stranded, you're literally stranded, and somebody comes and saves you. That is in Ogun's nature. I mean, this guy was burly. He was like, he had dirt on his shirt, very kind of like unkept, but warm. He has such a warmness to him, and a kindness to him. And he was a white guy. He wasn't like he was a white guy. Wasn't anything. So it was really like, wow, I could really be. I really don't know what's gonna happen next, but I trusted Ogun in that moment. Thankfully, it worked out. So it doesn't have to be related to the story.
Okay, so I was gonna ask one about my reading.
Oh yeah, the one you want to get next month for your birthday. We can talk about that. We can talk about.
I wasn't sure which day you were available. So.
Oh yeah, we can do that. I can text you. We can talk about that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second question was about the head marking.
That we can also talk about. That has to be organized during a time that other people are available, and that might be able to happen.
Okay.
Sooner than later. Okay. But as I mentioned, we gotta bring in your parents. Remember, we talked about that. Your parents have to be involved in that discussion. Okie dokies. Well, we're almost at 6:30. And I really I'm really looking forward to you guys continuing to ask questions and make connections, and to how you see this connecting to your daily walking life. And we're going to be talking about Oshosi next week. So that's going to be interesting. Oshosi is one of those orishas that don't come up a lot for people. But I think it's one of those orishas that I think is very important to know. So I look forward to sharing information about Oshosi next week.
Oh, sorry, really. This is the third one or the second one?
This is the third.
Okay, so what were the other two that I missed? So I'm sorry.
Ori, we had a discussion on Ori.
Okay.
And actually what I will do, I can make sure we send the videos out to everyone, and I've been swamped, so
Sure,
I've
I
not
get it.
had the opportunity to send it out.
Sure.
But sending out the videos that are recorded, because all of these are recorded.
Okay.
So so again, if you guys look at these and you have things that come up, questions that come up, feel free to contact me. And I look forward to seeing as many of you as can make it tomorrow morning.
All right.
Okay.
Everybody enjoy your evening.
You know,
Everyone.
Oh, sorry.
yeah, I've got a question. I'm sorry, I'm all late.
Oh, it's okay.
And this is just I guess a general question just came to my mind. Like today is the full moon, I guess, apparently. And I'm just wondering, is there any relationship to like Mukumi and like them looking at the stars in any sort of shape or way, or the constellations? And is there any connection with Ogun and something related to that? I know it's very general, but I was just wondering.
Yes, that is a good question. The moon is an Orisha for us. We call it Oshupa or Oshupwa. So the moon is an Orisha in its own right. So there are certain times when we have to propitiate and work with the moon specifically, depending on the nature of the question or issue at hand for a person. We look at the moon as sacred and connected to, one second. So we look at the connections that the moon has to the earth, the tides, like the connection between the moon, the sand, and the soil, as we like to call it. So we definitely look at how that's a dynamic force in itself, those three, and as they're connected. But we also look at, so I wouldn't say specifically Ogun, but really it could be different Orisha that comes up for. But sometimes certain Odu that are related to Ogun do relate to the moon. But again, it's under very specific circumstances, and that's determined through divination for the person. But the moon is an Orisha by the name of Oshupwa. So if you want to acknowledge Oshupwa, you certainly can. And we do believe that there are, like in Candomblé and in many traditions, certain ways that we work with energy is based on the moon cycle, depending on what's being done. So those things are part of the practice for sure. I hope that answers your question.
It does, thank you.
You're welcome. You guys are asking good, very thoughtful questions. Yes, here this moon is the snow moon. Is that what I read something about it being a snow moon? And apparently it's because it's during a time when we normally have a lot of snow.
I left work late last night and it was so clear, like the sky was so clear and the moon was so bright. So I just noticed it.
Yeah, it is. It's beautiful. And the days are getting longer again, which is also nice. It doesn't feel like it's so dark so long that you it's just like, okay, so that's good. But yeah, the moon is a very special part of our practice, and a beautiful part of it. All right. I didn't have no special music tonight. I've been having the first one I did music was at the second. So I'm gonna try and do music next time and get it together, because I like having music in my sessions. So I'll get it together. All right, y'all. Then everyone good with the questions?
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Good to see
All right.
everyone.
Good to see you too. Have a good night.
All right. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye,
Good
everyone.
night.